Hello and welcome to Gluten Watchers. I am your host, Rachel Toon, and on this episode, I would like to share with you step number 3 in transitioning to a gluten-free lifestyle. So we've been going through these 11 steps from my book, Guts and Gluten, a step-by-step guide to gluten-free living, which is available on Amazon. We've talked about step 1, which is educating yourself and understanding what's happening in your body. We've talked about step 2, which is simplifying your life and making the whole household gluten-free. And now we're going to talk about step 3, which is learning to read ingredient labels. So let's dive into these labels. The ability to read a food item, to be able to break down and understand that ingredient label is vital to your success in gluten-free living. Labels are deceptive. The FDA does not require barley or rye to be labeled in the allergen information. They also, even if the item says gluten-free on it, it does not mean that gluten is absent from it. It just means that there is no more than 20 parts per million in that food item. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but it depends on the person because everybody's going to react differently to gluten. So, what I want you to do now is I would like you to visualize a food package, or if you have one close by, it would even be better if you grab something, and let's look at it. Let's break it down. The first thing you're going to see is your nutritional facts. That's that big picture that has the calories with the total fat and cholesterol, sodium, carbohydrates, protein, those items. Then under that, next to it, close by on that package, you're going to see the word ingredients. Those are the ingredients that are in that product. Now, they list those ingredients in order by the amount that is in that product. So the first ingredient is going to have the largest amount of that item in the food that you have in front of you. And then it's going to decrease from that point. The next word you're going to see is contains. And this is your allergen information. So when I was talking about they don't require barley or rye to be listed in the allergen information, this is what I'm talking about. There are 8 major allergens that are required to be listed. Now, those 8 include wheat, soy, eggs, dairy, milk, peanuts, tree nuts, shellfish, and fish. So how do we limit ourselves from this exposure? We're reading these ingredient labels, and there's all this hidden stuff in it. There's all these additives that say one thing, but they're derived from a gluten-containing product, such as barley or rye or wheat. The best answer that I can give you, especially if you are just diagnosed, and even if you're not, it really doesn't matter, because your best option for keeping your body in check and for allowing that healing process to take place is eating naturally gluten-free foods. Yes, there are naturally gluten-free foods out there, and when I'm talking about that, it's items such as fresh meats that haven't been marinated in anything or haven't had any extra seasonings added to them. Fresh vegetables. Yes, you can still roast them and saute them and steam them and stuff, but when you buy them from the produce, get them fresh. Even frozen items you're going to be fine on as well. Fresh fruits, even raw nuts. All of those items you're going to be better off sticking to. Eating processed food is going to naturally expose you to gluten more and more. Think about how many meals a day we eat. We eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's 3 for sure. And then most of the time we have some snacks in there as well. Even if you're eating gluten-free products, you're still being exposed to trace amounts of gluten throughout the day. And you do that over and over again. Even with gluten-free certified products, ones that have gone above and beyond what the FDA requires, which is typically anywhere from 20 parts per million all the way down to 5 parts per million, doesn't mean there's still no gluten in any of those. The other thing you're going to want to do is really stick to making your own baked goods at this point, where you have separate almond flour or separate coconut flour, those gluten-free alternative flours. And those, I have a big list in my book and on my website as well to help you with that. I don't want you to be intimidated of these ingredient labels, but I want you to be aware of them because it is very easy to expose yourself to that gluten and not even be realizing it. We'll talk about another step later on is even non-food items, which is a whole nother area. So learning to read these ingredient labels, get my book, get on the website. I give you examples in my book that breaks all that stuff down for you. again, it is so important to learn how to read these ingredient labels, because the next step that we're going to talk about is cleaning out the kitchen, starting to fill it back up with stuff that's safe for us. So I hope that this has been helpful. Click the subscribe button, like it, make a comment below, and most of all, thank you for listening, and I hope that I'm putting life back into your lifestyle.